Now joining us on the Higher Level podcast, we have striking coach Brandon Gibson. Brandon, thank you very much for giving us some time. We appreciate it. Obviously, we're living in a crazy world at the moment. What's the situation like out in America for you, in terms of lockdown and stuff like that? How has life changed over these last few weeks?
It's been a drastic change for a lot of people, from all of the gyms being closed and businesses being closed, and it's just essential business. Everybody's on shelter-in-place orders and trying to limit our contact and our socialization as much as possible. And I feel like our community here in New Mexico has been doing a good job, and hopefully we don't see quick spread of the virus that, our hospitals can't accommodate. So far, It's been okay. Fingers crossed. I think it's going to hit smaller communities like New Mexico, maybe closer to the middle or end of April. So if everybody keeps staying in place, we should be able to protect our loved ones.
Yeah, that's it. I have seen you've been doing your bit out there delivering food and stuff like that. So you're taking a risk going out, but I guess in your local community, it's something you kind of need to do to make sure the vulnerable people out there have what they need. Yeah, and
I'm fortunate enough to have two careers. I coach martial arts every night, but in the daytime I work for our city government. So I'm one of very few people still working, making sure essential services are still being provided. So I do a lot of emergency logistics and make sure that our kids and our elderly and services are still being taken care of.
Yeah, you're a busy man. Like you say, martial arts coach, working for the government, father, all that together. Do you actually get any time just to sit down for yourself?
Rarely, but every now and then. I think it's just the way it is. It's just the way I'm programmed. I think my wife wouldn't know what to do with me if I was home all the time. She likes me going too.
Yeah, so it works out well. The situation suits you and your family then.
That's right. Yeah, but no, I'm very blessed to have two careers that are very fulfilling and very passionate to me. And but man, I am missing the gym right now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, because ultimately as well, you're a martial artist as well. So not only are you missing out coaching the guys, but you're missing out getting in there and training yourself. And I'm assuming that's a form of therapy for you as well.
Oh yeah, it's how I de-stress from my day job for sure. I kind of doesn't matter what happens in my day. I hit the gym and I come home feeling amazing. So every night I'm able to just leave all of my problems at the doorstep of the gym.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of guys find that they can just, it gets all that excess weight off them. I don't mean that literally, but it does do that as well, of course. What I wanted to know as well, and I'm sure the people that tune into the show, when did you first start in mixed martial arts? Not necessarily coaching. When did you first start in mixed martial arts and meet Greg Jackson and Mike Winkeljohn?
Well, I grew up doing kind of Okinawa style traditional karate from the age of 6 to about 17. And then as a teenager, I started boxing. I met this amazing Dutch kickboxing coach. He trained with the Overeem brothers out of Voss gym and Mike's gym. And he came over to America for work, and I met him at my boxing gym, and he said, I think with your karate background and boxing background, you might like some Dutch style kickboxing. So I started training some Muay Thai under him, and I thought I was tough. I was beating up everybody at our little gym, and he said, why don't you come over to me with me to Greg Jackson and Mike Winkeljohn's? And I went in there and got my ass kicked, and I said, okay, this is where I have to be. So I was about 22 when I went to Greg Jackson's.
Yeah.
So, that was 17 years ago.
It's a long time. That wasn't yesterday. And sometimes it's those humbling experiences that offer the opportunities of growth, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It showed me exactly where I wanted to be, and I was always watching MMA, and I just always considered myself a striker. And then when I got there, I really did fall in love with wrestling and grappling as well. But Greg told me I broke my leg. I had like a tib fib fracture, and I came back in the gym and I was all bummed out. And Greg said, "Brandon, you're meant to be a coach. Like, you know, you just have the characteristics and qualities to be a leader around here." So, so he really encouraged me to coach. And when you have one of the best coaches in the sport telling you that, it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a trait. You see, I know with regards to higher level, James Dillon, the head coach there, he was a fighter as well, but he always felt that his role was he wanted to be a coach, and fighting was just a way for that. Was that similar to yourself, that was it easy for you to switch from fighter to coach?
It was. I don't know. I didn't grow up with a strong competition background. So like in the traditional karate I was doing, there wasn't a lot of competing. There was some, but it wasn't like an active competition scene. But my love for martial arts was there. And I boxed and I kickboxed. But my love was going to the gym every night and practicing martial arts and hard sparring. And I think I've always been a selfless person too. So to be a high level fighter, you have to be very selfish. You know, you have to demand a lot of yourself from your family, from your coaches, from your teammates. And I don't think I was ever going to have those traits. And that's not a bad thing. But as a coach, I think I am very giving of my time, of my experience, of my even our bodies, right? Like you have to give so much to hold pads for some of these high level guys.
Yeah, I've watched some of the videos of you holding pads, and especially the ones when it's a leg kicks you're taking, and I genuinely get, even with the pads on, I get a bit of a shiver every time I see them. That doesn't look fun. It really doesn't.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's a form of self-torture at times, that's for sure.
Does the body become accustomed to that, or is that something that you just can't get used to, some of those shots you're taking through the pads?
No, I do think the timing of it is something that is technique and skill in its own, right? Like knowing how to flex into a body shot, or lean into a big leg kick, or catch an elbow at the perfect timing. So it's something I feel gifted for. High level of, you know, catching a spinning back kick from Jon Jones or a knee from Alistair Overeem or a leg from Cowboy. Those add up real quick.
Has there been one particular instance where you've been about to hold pads for someone and thought, "Oh God, this is going to suck"? Yeah,
sometimes I'll make sure my neck's loose, or I'll feel it in my shoulder. Okay, come on, body, let's go. A lot of the heavyweights though, I trained Alistair for a few camps. That was never pleasant pad holding.
Yeah,
you always like to wear little gloves too. That was those are brutal sessions. Alistair's very technical. He loved to work on combos and entries, and he'd always apply them in the fights. He was a great student, great martial artist, great collaborator. But man, he could rip with some power when he wanted to turn it on. I trained Andrei Arlovski. Andrei was always very like speed based, though very technical. I never really got hurt from Andrei. It's rare. You know, the guys are so high level themselves. I can't think of many times that I've been hurt on accident. You know, it's just the grind. It's just the grind of a camp adds up too.
It's an art form in itself, holding pads, because you can watch some guys holding pads and then you see some other guys holding pads and you can see that there is that difference. It is in itself a kind of art form, just the pad holding.
I think so too. I'll tell fighters sometimes that holding pads is its own form of martial arts, because everything's so different than if I was the striker. And it's not even just a defensive form, like teaching yourself to open up for a body shot, teaching yourself to lean, to pull, to give, or to not meet them, right? Yeah. I learned a lot early on. It's kind of silly, but when I was young, even before I was at Greg Jackson and Mike Winkeljohn's, I would watch videos of like Freddie Roach holding pads or Roger Mayweather, and they had these old VHS tapes. And one of the things I remember Freddie Roach saying that it was key to have the pad close to your face. And so I think I had some good habits from early on. I've never been a fan of people catching wide. I think it teaches your fighters to punch across, and so I'm always right on my cheeks. Yeah, right on my temple, right on my cheeks, which makes my job a little more dangerous, but hopefully it makes the skills more applicable for the fighters.
Yeah, that's what I was going to sort of add on to that. It's like it probably is. It does mean it can be a bit more dangerous for you, but when it comes to fight night for a fighter, it just maybe changes that accuracy and benefits him in the fights.
Exactly. Helps him, I feel like my job's to teach range, to teach timing, to teach speed, to teach technique. There's so many more elements than just a combination, right? And first and foremost, like the mitts themselves, when I'm catching the punches and kicks or elbows, can look flashy, but the biggest thing I'm teaching when I'm teaching mitts is defense. I feel like it's the best way to come as close as you can to sparring or to a fight without the contact for the fighter, right? And be able to apply the strategy. So defense, footwork, those are my biggest things.
So I was going to say that. Is that something you're paying attention to? Obviously, you're watching the fighter, but are you trying to watch the leg placement, body positioning when after they're throwing the shot? Is that all stuff you're keeping an eye on as well?
Absolutely. Where they are at defensively, where they're at in range, and keeping them in motion, right? Like not just landing that big shot and watching it, but landing it, exiting, and right back to our work. Yeah. So, I believe a lot in footwork and feints and in strong defense. It's the worst feeling as a coach to see your fighters get knocked out. I wear that with very, very, very heavy burden. Those are the moments that stay with me as a coach, much more so than the championships or the victories. It's like, man, when I let that one fighter down because we didn't work this enough.
That seems like a very common trait between really good coaches that I've noticed through speaking to different guys over the years. The coaches in the corners, the ones that feel every blow, they seem to be the guys that are the most successful from the outside looking in anyway.
Yeah, I think it all comes from a place of love and caring. It's a scary thing going out there to fight, right? So you want to make sure you equip your fighters with as many tools as they can to succeed, and that's why we watch so much game footage. That's why we watch so much. Do so much strategy and development and communication, and all of the coaches are collaborating with each other because we all want to be in unison on the same page when fight night comes. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths of our gym is how well Eric Jackson, Mike Winkeljohn, myself, Israel Martinez, any of the great coaches we've cornered hundreds of fights together. So we work very well together. It's not just bringing in all these random coaches from all over the place and trying to get them to harmonize.
And one of the parts of having a big gym like that is there's going to be a lot of guys that you'll have developed from scratch, but you're going to have guys that are coming in that are maybe established pros. Aaron Pico being one. Mm-hmm. How different is it from when you go for taking guys that you've worked with since the very beginning to guys that have been at other gyms and then you're starting to hold pads for them and do stuff like that? How different is that process?
Early on, it'd be challenging when I was trying to teach like my style, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think I kind of abandoned that a few years into coaching that. My job is as a collaborator. So sometimes it's really about seeing what kind of gym we have to polish and what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are their passive victories. Some guys are kickers, some guys are wrestlers, some guys have excellent defense. Some guys are speed and volume. So it's just really about identifying and then matching up with their upcoming fight. There's like a short-term game plan for that, and then there's long-term personal development and growth for the fighter as well. And I think it really takes a while to get into a rhythm and to a groove with a fighter. And with somebody like Pico, I've been working with him now for about a year, and he's like a little brother to me. We just click on all of the areas in the gym and outside of the gym. I see a lot of prospect and potential in Aaron. I have no doubt he's going to be a world champion. He just has all of the tools. Yeah,
it's an unusual case for Aaron as well because you've got like Freddie Roach saying he believed he could be a world champion boxer. He's got a fantastic wrestling pedigree, but he comes into the sport debuting, and I've never seen a fighter with the amount of pressure he had on him in terms of the hype. And obviously we know how it went, but you can see we are, and obviously you can speak a lot better than anyone else. The tools are there, but how difficult do you feel that was from initially dealing with that sort of pressure? Because that was insane for a young guy like Arn to have to deal with that amount of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, he was a championship amateur boxer and a world champion amateur wrestler, but he never really learned how to be an MMA fighter. And he says that until he came to Jackson Wink, that he just had his boxing tools and his wrestling tools and a few other things added on, but he didn't necessarily understand all of the elements of mixed martial arts. And it takes a lifetime to understand if even possible, but I think his IQ for the game has gone up so dramatically, and nothing against his previous coaches. He was just such an amazing talent. You can go in there and send him in there and he'll do anything, but I don't think he understood all of the potential areas that he could succeed in, or that his opponents can succeed in. The defense is very different, and the footwork, the range is very different than boxing and wrestling. And I think now he's really starting to comprehend all of that. And we had a great last bout against a tough opponent, and we're just trying to slow him down too. I mean, I felt like he was very rushed as well.
Yeah, that seemed to, when he got into trouble in fights, he would be dominating, but then he could slip into that almost slugfest. And that's where he takes away his advantages. It seemed like, anyway. But is that something you noticed in his earlier fights?
Oh, yeah. We're just teaching him to be patient. He loves George St. Pierre, so we're always, Greg coached and cornered George for so many fights. So Greg's always sharing George stories with Aaron. And sometimes, same with George, it was just about slowing it down. Just slow it down. Sometimes that meant the fights. Sometimes that meant the camp. Sometimes that meant the round itself. And Aaron's really starting to understand that, and he's slowing it down. And he is a workhorse, though, man. He is in the gym, so disciplined, so dedicated, and then he does all of the extras. We know he runs. We know he lifts. We know he film studies. So, and he just has an unbreakable attitude and spirit. So he's just a coach's dream.
Yeah, I think of TJ Dillashaw has made comments about Arn in the past that he's an absolute workhorse, which you don't get in all fighters. So I'm assuming it really helps when you've got a guy with that talent and that work rate. That's what makes champions, I guess.
It is, because I've seen guys with all the physical gifts, or guys with the mental gifts, or guys with the psychological gifts, but they don't always have all the characteristics. And I think to have a very dominant, successful career, you have to have all of it. You have to have the God-given gifts. You have to have the work talent. You have to have the IQ. It's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously as well, with guys like Aaron and the younger guys coming through the gym, you're coaching at the highest level. Obviously, John, world champion, Carlos Condit, you've coached at the highest level. So does that help you now as well, that you've got all that experience and everything you can pass on to those younger guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very blessed, very fortunate to work with so many high-level fighters as well, that I'm able to take little bits of like, hey, this worked really well with Carlos. I wonder if this would work with a younger fighter, or, this combo or this technique or this approach. And same with Greg Jackson and Mike Winkeljohn. I mean, they're my senseis, and they've been coaching champions for decades now as well. So, there's so much knowledge. Aaron and Jon Jones have both said, like, it would be a scary thing to be an opponent and look up and not just see the fighter, but to see, coach of countless champions stacked up behind them as well. That, it's a force in itself.
Yeah, and it's something that's built Jackson Wink over the years, just the level of talent that's come through the gym. It's been amazing. I mean, Jackson Wink, I would say maybe AKA were the first really big gyms that exploded on the scene that were recognisable. Yeah,
absolutely. When Rashad Evans came, and then when George St. Pierre came, I felt like that really boomed our gym. And we had amazing just local fighters. Carlos Condit, Holly, Diego Sanchez, Joey Villasenor, Keith Jardine. There's so many local homegrown fighters here. It's a tough place. It's a tough place. But when we got the high level champions coming in, I felt like the information, the resources, the knowledge, the team drive, it bumped up to another level.
I've got a question actually, James Dillon wanted me to ask you. Obviously, from a coach to coach, he likes to look around, see other coaches. So he wanted to know what coaches and what guys inspire you. Obviously, Greg and Mike, but is there any other guys out there that you look at and you take inspiration from?
I love watching James on pads for sure. You know, some of you guys as students, I've always felt a strong kinship to our Glasgow friends, and you know, Fee and Kieran are like family to me. But I love James's repetition, balance, very good form, very good technique, and he's a beast at catching kicks. I wish I had that on the kicks like him. So he's definitely one of them. Tyler Wombles in California is a great young coach. He works a lot with Cody Garbrandt. I'm a big fan of Tyler's style. And there's so many. My former teammate Safe in Dallas at Fortis Gym, that they have a great squad of up and comers. He's doing a great job. I really like the teamwork, camaraderie side I see out of Safe and what he's building. Mark Henry, brilliant coach. I love watching him work with guys like Frankie Edgar. I'm a big fan of John Crouch in Arizona, and Benson's one of my all-time favorite fighters. So definitely a lot of amazing fighters I've learned a lot from. That there's a certain mid technique I picked up watching Firas when I was younger. Firas Zahabi. So, you know, that there's little techniques that I see. I try to make them my own, apply them in my own way with my fighters, but I always have my eyes out there. I'm always looking, trying to get better, trying to improve, or this game will pass me right by.
I guess when that attitude changes, that's when you maybe don't coach anymore, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I could see myself doing this for a long time. As long as I can hold up, you know. I feel like striking coaches are different more so than like a grappling coach or wrestling coach, where I just have to be in there with the pads. I have to. That's where my connection is made. I would have a hard time just standing outside the cage. So I don't know if I'll be a good old man coach. I got to be mixing it up on the pads. That's where my connection's at.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. And just last question, Brandon, and we'll let you get on with your day. You've obviously, like you say, you've been involved in the sport for a long time now, so you've seen that development and explosion. When you look at the level of talent, not just in Jackson Wink, but around the country and the globe, is it that the difference between then and now? How crazy is that for you to have seen that development over the years? Oh
yeah, to see these athletes come in that one are high level athletes that are choosing to play mixed martial arts, not football, not soccer, not basketball, not any of these other high paying, more mainstream sports, but that they're choosing to do mixed martial arts is a big thing. And then like the young fighters that are coming up that have been training full mixed martial arts for their whole childhood is crazy. Like where I grew up in a single discipline, not really knowing about all of the other facets until I was like 24 by the time I was really like learning to wrestle and grapple. So to see higher level athletes with a bigger compass of mixed martial arts knowledge, I think we're going to see so many elements of the sport come in at another level. But I think history is very cyclical, right? So we'll continue to, I believe, see eras where like the strongest grapplers will win, the strongest wrestlers will win, the strongest strikers will win, and kind of what's old will become new again. There's so much mixed martial arts knowledge out there. It's impossible to learn it all. So I think we'll continue to have like outlier groups that get found and used, and that'll become the new hot thing. And then somebody will forget about more of a basic approach. But even with all that said, I do believe like fundamentals will always win. Like if you have a strong double leg, if you have good, top position, if you have good ground and pound, if you have good tight boxing and kick defense, I think you can have a great long career as well. So we'll see. We'll see. I got to be just on my toes.
Yeah. Keep him busy, and potentially we'll see you still holding pads the next 20, 30, 40 years. Who knows?
I hope so.
Well, listen, Brandon, thank you very much for coming on the podcast and taking some time out your day. Obviously, stay safe with everything that's going on, and I hope everybody's well over there. Thank you very much, Brandon. We appreciate your time.
Yeah. No problem. Much love to everybody in Scotland. Thank you all.